shut up, you listen to my monkey mouth. There's a companion when you got pun on the canoa route. Hopped in a portal and got in a fight, Elias knocked him out. Bow, Naruto fighting style. Bow, UFC he tapped out. Bow, we win, we get crowned. Monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth, monkey mouth.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Ones Who Woke Up podcast. This is Joshua.
This is Elias.
And I'm so happy that you guys are here joining me on the episode today. This is actually the first iteration, so pump the brakes real quick. We had like 3 or 4 episodes of this produced. Granted, we're on number 4 right now.
Yeah.
But we had 4 episodes that were produced that never actually made it out into the world because of technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But so you had been on 2 previously, and this is actually the first one that we've been able to produce where you're actually going to be on it, and the world's going to get to see you. So that's exciting, right?
Yeah.
Getting to be on here.
It was a lot of fun, and those episodes that we did, I mean, we'll get to listen to them. I think that's pretty good, right?
Oh no, dude, those files are corrupted.
Oh, those files are just
those are gone. So even whenever I went and did the like file recovery stuff, it like brought me the files, but they were all 0 kilobit. Like they were nothing. Like they had, had like the ghost of my files. So we lost out on a few episodes, but I'm glad that I've been able to, obviously I say get you on. You're my fucking partner in the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to literally get a Shut Up, You Listen in, and immediately after this, talk about Stranger Things, which I'm excited to talk about Stranger Things because there's some neat philosophical stuff going on. And I almost even considered doing a We Watched iteration of The Ones Who Woke Up, covering that. But at the end of the day, I feel like I can bullshit about nothing, right?
Yeah.
Talk about literally nothing for 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but at the end of the day, dude, I'm really excited about where we're at with the podcast studio.
I think it's just all moving in the right direction. Like yesterday, I was up here with Champezi, and
Champel.
We're definitely like working towards a nice like relationship with
that guy needs to do a podcast.
Yeah, well, he has a podcast. It's called the Pizzle Podcast. It's just
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's a fun name.
So like I was like, well, let's get into this together, and
I think he should call it the Pale Horse Podcast.
That's pretty good too.
Yeah. And like at the beginning of every episode, have Johnny Cash, and I looked and behold a pale horse, and like that be how they comes into it, bro.
It'd be definitely some WWE style, like bringing in like, off the balcony, like what is it? Like coming through the wrestling, like coming down. Yeah. But yeah, no. So like we're definitely we're building towards what is it? I think he has a name picked out.
Yeah, which we don't need to talk about it because
it's like
someone could steal that shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I didn't say it. He's got a name picked out.
Steal your bitch in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
People are vicious out here, bro. Capitalism's neat.
Yeah,
capitalism's neat.
Oh man, what was it? There was a comedian that literally bought. I think he bought CelebrityDongs.com.
Oh my god!
Right. And it immediately takes you to his like comedy stand-up page.
That's
so
good.
Like
I love that.
That's hilarious.
That's super wonderful.
Celebrity.
Anybody who's horny looking for celebrity dicks is gonna go straight to my website.
Yeah, that's hilarious, And so like he was talking about like literally sitting on like CelebrityDongs.com, like, and just like he's like
beautiful.
It's just so funny to me.
Beautiful. I mean, there's a whole business to like going out and proactively poaching potentially beneficial website names.
Yeah, I mean, like Walt Disney consistently rewrites copyright law.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you right now, they're not making live action iterations of the stuff they did in the 50s for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not just a cash grab. It's also so that they can keep a hold of those trademarks and of those patents. They're just protecting their intellectual property.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
the newest Winnie the Pooh movie wasn't because they're like, we love Winnie the Pooh and you deserve Winnie the Pooh. They're making sure nobody else can make a fucking Winnie the Pooh movie.
And I wonder how that went over. Like, did the Chinese Communist Party get to watch the Winnie the Pooh movie, or did they have to like watch it in a dark room with a VPN?
I mean, homie, you're talking about a communist party.
Well, the funny thing is like the president gets called Winnie the Pooh all the time, and and he literally has like a ban on Winnie the Pooh in China. Like you're not allowed to watch.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Bro,
yeah, like
what?
Xi Jinping gets called like.
Bro, let me get this straight.
Yeah.
The current leader of China.
Yeah.
One of the 3 major superpowers on the planet.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Russia counts anymore. they couldn't do shit with Ukraine. Like, do you even know what's happening with Ukraine? I'm pretty sure Ukraine, like, turned them back.
Well, like, they got them down in the Donbass region and, like, completely went in and, like, destroyed several key installation plants, like that were like power plants. Yeah, like, well, like the plants that were like delivering weapons
from what I understand, Russia was able to like take over one or two big cities, but they were never able to take over the capital.
Yeah,
and that, like,
well, like there was like so like they were trying to get Kiev, they were trying to get the Donbass region. They'd come in from the east, they'd come in from like they come in through like Snake Island and stuff like that, and it just seems like they're consistently But there's also
the point I'm trying to make is that I don't know if you can call Russia a superpower anymore whenever they can't even, like, big brother a neighboring country. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, like
y'all's status as a superpower is, like,
waning. Yeah,
like, I think that, like, white people call Russia a superpower because they're white people, and it makes us feel, like, good to have, like, two superpowers that are white. Right? But truthfully, man, it's really seeming...
I would be more scared of Turkey than I would be of Russia. And Turkey, like... Erdogan, like, he has, like...
Bro, why would you worry about Turkey? Turkey has... So I
well, not particularly because,
I worked at a Walgreens for almost 2 years. Like, the longest I ever hold down a job ever in my life was
2
at
weeks.
Walgreens. No, it was actually almost 2.5 years.
No, I'm just...
yeah, I did all right there. Because they respected me. They, you know, I told them what my boundaries were, and they respected that. And we were able to, like, work. No other employer's ever done that. So I like, stuck with them for 2.5 years. Like, that's significantly longer than I've ever done any one thing for any other person.
Yeah.
But the point is that one of the assistant managers that was working there, she was from Turkey. Mm-hmm. And, like, bruh, there's, like, 3 major factions in Turkey that are, like, always actively killing the fuck out of one another. Yeah. Like, Turkey isn't even a unified country. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're, like...
I mean, we're particularly unified by a thread. I mean, honestly. I mean, we're not factioning in the street.
It's like we all hate the government.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's like the unifying thing.
What did we joke around that Uvalde brought white people and Hispanics together?
Bro.
I mean, not that white people and Hispanic need to be brought together any harder. Like, we pretty much get along. Like, white people and Hispanics kind of have this, like, soft understanding.
I mean, my son's half Afro-Latino.
Yeah, so...
You know what I'm saying? So I thoroughly believe that white people are insane. And I was like...
You've said that before, yeah. So
I was like, I need to breed out some of this craziness. I'm second-generation non-murderer. My grandpa killed his dad with a 12-gauge.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, bro. And, like, so shit is crazy in the Barnett family, bro. And so I was like, bro, like, my son needs to have, like, some Islander blood or something. Like,
some chill blood in there.
He needs to not be all backwoods redneck. Like,
well, so, God, I was
tell the people, bro, 'cause it's
so mad. I was literally like, I told you, I was like half asleep, Mikey, like, cutting Z's, and then I hear, like, Uvalde Sheriff, whatever, fuckwit number 9, like, it says, oh, they fired me and made me the scapegoat because I'm Hispanic. And I woke up out of it like, I'm going to YouTube. I'm going on Facebook Live. And I was like, fuck this guy. I was like, oh, I was so mad. I was like, it's not because you're Hispanic. It's because you're a fucking coward. You're a piece of shit. And, like, one person hearts it and then immediately yeets. Like, oh, shit, Elias is on a tear. Like they usually see my happily smiling face. And I'm like, fuck this guy. Like, I'm, like, ranting. Yeah. And then, like, they're, like, out, like, immediately. Like they jumped in.
Hey, whoa, I thought this was going to be good vibes, Mikey, man.
And I was
Mikey's angry today.
And I was like you said, I chose violence. I was like, rubbing my eyes and like, fuck this guy. Like, oh, I was just so mad. I was like, dude, it's not because you're Hispanic. It's because...
so let's back it up, because everybody who's listening might not be fully aware of what's happening. So let's give some people some context. So Uvalde is a small town in Texas.
Yeah, outside of El Paso, I think,
that's
right?
Like predominantly Hispanic.
Yeah.
And there was a national tragedy. There was a mass shooting there at the school. The cops like got into a car chase with a dude. He like led the car chase to the school and like ran into the school and like killed a bunch of 4th graders.
Yeah.
And it's like the most dog shit evil thing ever. I won't even say the guy's name.
No, fuck that guy.
He like I don't want these dudes to think that like there's any clout to be had for doing this shit. So fuck that dude, and like I hope he gets exactly what's coming to him in the afterlife. But at the end of the day, the mass shooter happened, and the police department just fumbled how they handled it egregiously. It was handled so badly that the city had to hire like an outside law firm to like go in and fight so that they wouldn't have to release the body cam footage of the police through discovery because it was so embarrassing and condemning. that they actually like couldn't even bear the truth
like
being shown.
Hardcore like vaxo guys, like people who got their vaccine, like people who are like on the other side of it, like you know,
people
like
who trust the government.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, this motherfucker's like using hand sanitizer and like chilling, and there's literally like pops in the background, like you can systematically hear life being ended, and this guy's like, yeah, and it's just like not particularly actively, one hand shakes the other, but it's just like
they were literally like preventing parents from going in and protecting their kids.
That one, I don't know this young lady's name, but she ran in, grabbed her 2 kids, and I think like basically let some other kids out.
Well, so I mean, there were a group of like after a while, the cops like got off of trying to stop the parents, like they kind of like started to mob up.
Yeah,
and there were parents like going around the outside of the building, pulling kids out of windows and shit. And it actually wasn't even a police officer. Like there was an entire army of police officers there, and they were just not doing shit. And like they were. It was
actually the border patrol who came in,
and not even the border patrol. One vigilante, like one border patrol agent was like, "Hold on, this is happening near me.
Yeah,
cool. I'm gonna go handle it." And he went and fucking handled it, bro. And he fucking took a bullet to the head, bro. He got shot. Like, he got grazed by an AR-15, bro, and, like, went in and killed that motherfucker.
Well,
So, again, one good guy with a gun.
Well, that's just like...
And the police department didn't do shit.
That's cosmic fate. Like, he was like, nah, not today. That bullet's just gonna, like...
Yeah, he was a good man. He had karma on his side.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this karma's on your side that day.
Yeah.
Like, you were in there being a fucking hero. And, like, Border Patrol agent... I have like some bones to pick with you about being a border patrol agent, bro. Like,
I don't know, man. Because a lot of Mexicans are border patrol agents. So, like, what are you gonna do?
I just don't know how I feel about the whole like role in society of being a border patrol agent. But I can say that man went in there and saved the day. But the thing I don't want to go into like a big long talk about the Uvalde thing. I just wanted to
talk about this.
Context, right? Like clearly. A fucking border patrol agent had to go and walk past cops who were tasing parents to go save the day, right? And this is all under the watch of this like one cop. And this one cop basically came out, the chief of police in Uvalde, basically tried to say that he's being a scapegoat for the situation and that he's an easy scapegoat because he's Hispanic. And this like triggered the fuck out of Mikey because that's bullshit. I mean, and anyone who's like, it's one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to the city of Uvalde. It's a dishonorable thing that happened.
And like you were saying, like for any one person who's going to face discrimination from this point moving forward will have a small seed of doubt planted in it because of what this man said on a Thursday.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is that people who aren't being racially discriminated against, who cry wolf, are ultimately turning every other person who tries to have an honest conversation about the discrimination that they're experiencing. They're going to get treated as though they're the boy who cried wolf because there's the fucking sheriff in Uvalde who's complaining about it, and like you're going to think like that's going to impress on the back of your mind, and it's going to immediately automatically invalidate some people in people's minds, and so it really works in a bunch of really bad ways. But the thing that I don't like about it is that it seems to me an indication of like the toxic thing that's sinking police departments around the nation, right? This gentleman did something obviously wrong, right?
Yeah.
And was actually miraculously held accountable by the city that he worked for. And instead of him accepting responsibility for his actions, he tries to blame racist white men for him getting canned. And I think that it's an indication to like what's happening at the top of police departments across the board, right? Like at the end of the day, police departments employ a male dominator hierarchy management structure, right? And so you can guarantee that the entire police department in Uvalde is dog shit.
Yeah.
And like if you're from Uvalde and you're a cop there, like you probably need to do some real god honest soul searching right now, because in a male dominator hierarchy, there's one alpha chimp who runs everything, and a beta chimp, and a C chimp, and a D chimp. And, like, it's a big game of telephone down to the very bottom. And, like, it's all about maintaining the status quo of the alpha 8.
Yeah.
And so I understand there's good apples and bad apples, but I want you to understand that whenever the person who dictates the demeanor and disposition and general orientation of the entire police department is verifiably a bad apple,
yeah,
then guess what? If you're not a bad apple, you're going to be viewed as someone who isn't fitting into the culture there.
Yeah.
Right? And so the bad apple at the top is going to turn everyone beneath him into bad apples. And anybody who comes in that's a good apple is going to stick out like a sore thumb. They're going to be a nail that's sticking out, and they're going to get hammered down.
Well,
so this is like my big bone to pick.
Have you ever watched? We have like completely different internet culture. Like, do you ever watch the law, like the police officer auditors that like go around and like audit like beat cops, and like they basically use like.
I mean, I've seen the videos, but like I just feel like those guys are playing with fire, right? Like at the end of the day, cops have it. Like I'll admit, like I come from a family of cops, right?
Yeah.
Cops have a hard job. You know what I'm saying? Like they really do have a hard job. Like every time that a cop interacts with somebody, they're holding that person hostage.
Yeah.
Like if you get pulled over by a cop, and you don't want to be there, and you decide that as a free human being, you're not going to sit there and be held hostage by somebody and try and leave, an army of cops are going to descend upon you, and they will use up to lethal force to apprehend you for a fucking registration ticket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so every single interaction that these cops have, the people that they're dealing with recognize that they're being kidnapped and held hostage by the state, right? And it reminds me of like whenever America was beginning to fight for its independence from Britain. Everybody out on the ocean who was making their living off the coast of America was being consistently harassed by
the British Navy.
Yeah, exactly. And so like and these guys are like boarding people's ships, and they were doing civil forfeitures just like the cops do today.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this paperwork isn't in line. Now all these fish are ours. It's the British government's now. And like, oh, you need to pay your taxes, or like you didn't fucking register this vessel, or like whatever, bro. And it turned into like this big situation where the British Navy was a pack of pirates poaching innocent people under the guise of a government that wasn't actually representing the people that they were victimizing, right? And it turned into like no taxation without representation. What the fuck? And that's where we're getting these days.
Well, the funny thing is like I forget who it might even be. Joe Rogan. I'm just so far removed from him, but it was someone who was in that ethos. Was like, we forget that we became savages over 3%. 3% taxation. Like complete savages. Yeah. Like literally taking British soldiers, having them kneel down, and becoming savages, and throwing goods and stuff over a lake and destroying goods and services.
And now people are now if you're a single man making more than $100K a year, they're going to take almost 50% of your money.
Yeah, if you have upwards of $600 that it's unaccounted for, you can get audited.
Oh yeah. Oh, so try and send $600 on Cash App and see if that doesn't put you on the radar of the state. Yeah. And yet, the politicians are just making money hand over fist, being crazy. But,
I mean, so in essence, I'm not the one. I'm in the Matrix. That's the joke, right? Yeah. And it literally like pulled me, like I got shoved out of the Matrix for 30 seconds and was like. Yeah, and then I was just really frustrated because, like, here's the thing, man. I've completely pulled centered myself away from a lot of cultural things that are culturally Hispanic. Like I said, the only reason you would know that I'm culturally Hispanic is because of my skin color and the food I eat. I don't really partake in a lot of Hispanic culture, whether it's the music, TV, or any of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen you walking up wearing something that would be like what would be traditionally depicted as a Mexican wearing. You don't speak with an accent. Yeah. You know, you're
or even like the guys who are like far removed and wear like La Raza t-shirts.
You're just a fucking normal guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A normal guy.
Yeah, but I mean, on top of that, like there's Hispanic people out there that are far removed that could wear like La Raza t-shirts or like Zapata t-shirts, or you know. Even Houston t-shirts that seem very pro-Hispanic. Like, I'm not that guy. But to essentially, like, oh, my skin color was the reason for X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, bro. Your lack of compassion and empathy and your lack of understanding that at this point you became the enemy at a point when there should have been one. Like, there should have been one enemy. And you became a far greater threat at any given point. Mm-hmm. You were essentially the toll keeper or like of someone causing a national tragedy, and the toll wasn't even obtainable. Like there was nothing to get past you.
I mean, the man literally ordered his people not to go in there.
Yeah.
And the conversations that happened between the police officers were so damning that the state literally fought to make it so that their body cam footage would not be released in Discovery, because it was that condemning, right? That like the state and the city felt like they wouldn't even be able to keep those people, like the backlash would be so strong that they couldn't even be like, well, it's just those individuals, right? Like they knew that it was going to come back to them because it was such a big deal and it's been being let go on for so long. That
the funny thing is like how thread like you like if you ever go back and you see like the LA riots or certain parts of like the set like 70s and 80s like time and place where there was literally like I've seen a lot of people go crazy for like Chopped. You ever heard Chopped or whatever it was called? It was like named three different times, and it was like a like zone in like Seattle that was like held together through like basically like through tape and like hope of like people coming together and pulling.
Whatever those idiots trying to run their own little break off.
Yeah, exactly. But like think of it like this, like that was legitimately happening in like in different parts of like cities in Chicago and LA where the cops wouldn't go to those parts of town. They were literally held up by drug dealing and black markets, you know, because it's like, well, no, we don't go there. And it was, you know, it was like, it's this strange thing of like, you hear the words like gentrification or like certain words like that, where people come in and they gently move things by pricing people out, and just kind of like, oh, isn't this
modern
cute?
Segregation.
Yeah, modern segregation. Yeah, and isn't this cute? Like, oh, I could definitely see turning this into like an artistry pretzel factory, you know? And it's just like there's human beings that live there.
Yeah,
and they're like, yeah, but I gotta have my pretzels, you know? And it's so weird. Like Uvalde is primarily Hispanic and black. And they're probably lower to middle class people who are just working class.
Well, that's because that's the overwhelming majority of everybody everywhere.
Yeah, exactly, right. That is true. But I'm just saying, like, to pass the buck solely on some sort of bullshit behavior of like, oh, it was my skin, or some bullshit like narrative that it was my skin, just completely rubbed me such in a raw way that it pulled me out of a semi-decent sleep, you know, to like jump online and like literally say, no, fuck this guy. Like, as a Hispanic male, fuck this guy. Yeah. You know, like, don't let and the thing that also was scary to those people was to see how when a community comes together against the police officers, how scary it could get.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know.
I mean, fuck. Whenever they killed Floyd, George Floyd, they fucking burnt the police department to the ground. Yeah. Like, they literally burnt that shit to the floor. Yeah. So shit can get like real fast. Yeah. Is the bottom line.
Well, the funny thing is like, I think that there was a certain time where a certain person had basically said, "Rise up, we'll nuke you." Yeah. And they were like someone who's not exactly the most coherent person, who's, you know, part of the narrative, was like, well, fuck around and find out. And they were like, you can't say that. And he's like, well, I just did. And it wasn't the person that you're thinking that was part of the administration just a couple years ago. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, listen, bro, it doesn't matter what administration's in, what party's holding what. Yeah. It's 1,000 guys on an island who have a fucking puppet show, and, like, at the end of the day, there's certain things you can't do. Yeah. Like, you can't tip the board game over. They're going to stop you, you know? Yeah. And so, my question would be, like, what do we do to turn the tide into a positive direction? And I think that one of the things that we can do is focus on mental health.
Definitely.
And I think that one of the things that I really do believe that one of the most beneficial things that people can do for their mental health is taking high doses of psychedelics.
They were just talking about this too. I mean, it's actually kind of young. Maybe not young for you because I don't particularly know when you started partaking in narcotics, but I think it's as low as 16 to 25-year-olds are primarily starting to take anywhere from microdoses or even legit like Superman doses of, whether it's psilocybin, LSD, psychedelics, and even they threw marijuana in there with the caveat that it's not a true psychedelic.
You can have a psychedelic experience.
But I mean, like, but they put the caveat in. They put a caveat in there.
What people don't understand about there's like a pretty like dope relationship between how marijuana acts and how LSD acts.
Yeah.
So like, marijuana basically makes it so that the receptors that release dopamine are like better lubricated to do that, right? And LSD just wedges them open. You see, and so at the end of the day, it's like the same chemical that intoxicates you on the back end. You're like LSD and cannabis aren't inherently intoxicating. They open up chemical doorways in your body to allow for the flow of chemicals that you already possess in certain places in your brain that make you...
Whether it's like the pineal gland or whether it's like serotonin or...
Exactly, or dopamine.
Dopamine,
Dopamine's the big one that interacts with both of them. But so I really think that at the end of the day, like your mental health can be conceptualized as like a window through which you look at reality through. You feel me?
Oh, yeah.
And so I just think that a lot of people have like really cloudy, dirty windows that they're looking out into reality through, and they're getting these like distorted versions of what's going on because their window's dirty.
Well, this even plays into, and the only reason why I bring it up is because it's just heavily in the zeitgeist and in the Matrix and on the YouTube, TikTok algorithm is this strange surge of misogyny. That window that window is just covered in mud. Like women are the enemy. I don't get sex after I bought you something. I was like, bitch, that's not how this works. Like, I don't get that. Like,
it's not a transaction. That's a prostitute.
Yeah. If you want a prostitute, get a prostitute. That's perfectly fine.
Sex work is real work.
Yeah. Like, in all honesty,
sex work is real work in Josh's world, dog.
Like, but the thing is,
the thing about the sex industry I've never understood is how is it illegal? How is it illegal?
Puritanical behavior, right?
So how is it illegal for me to charge you for sex, but it's legal for me to give it to you?
Yeah. It's just a puritanical thing. I mean, it's this narrative ran by puritanical nitwits.
Well, what it really is it's the influence of church over politics.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's what I'm saying, puritanical.
There's supposed to be a separation of church and state, but what people don't understand is that it's very difficult to do because ultimately people's morals and ethics are influenced by their theology. And so even if you were to like completely separate the church and the state, which we don't have these days, but even if you were able to like completely separate them, you can't stop the influence of the moral structure that the people who participate in those religions are going to erect for themselves, right? And so like, I don't know, I guess most Christians feel like prostitution's bad.
I mean, Mary Magdalene was following Jesus around. I don't see how it could be that bad, Jesus.
I mean, bruh, Mary is his mom?
Mary Magdalene. Yeah, Mary, the Virgin Mary is his mom. But Mary Magdalene.
So Mary had an old man and then had a baby, and then 3 homies showed up with gifts.
Yeah.
Like, that's some slut-ass activity, bro. Like, 3 dudes showed up and was like, maybe he's mine.
Yeah.
And so, which, I mean, granted, like, I know that's not literally what happened. Yeah. Like, it's, I'm being...
You're being facetious.
I'm being silly.
Silly,
but at the end of the day, I think that, like, I don't want to go so far as to say we need to put LSD in the water, right? Like granted, they're fluoridating our water. They're already. You realize that they're already mass medicating us against our will.
Yeah.
Like they're already doing it. Well, you know that they're putting chemtrails in the air. People say that I'm a conspiracy theorist for talking about chemtrails. Guys, go to the state of Texas's website and look at their fucking at their weather manipulation section. Like they literally have an entire part of their fucking website dedicated to talking about the things that they do.
Well, we were joking
about the weather.
Well,
cloud seeding through fucking airborne. The airborne cloud seeding is a fucking thing. And
we were joking around.
We're 40 years in on chemtrails.
Well, we were joking around. Me and my family were joking around. I was like, there's a drought because they want a drought. We could legit make. I mean, we have it. Was it him? It's like a rate harp. Thank you. We have harp. We have cloud seeding. If they wanted to legitimately pull moisture from the earth and cause rain to happen at any given point or change weather patterns, we can do it.
So, have you seen the movie Rango?
No, but I do know which one it is. With the lizard.
Lizard. So the whole premise of that movie is that they're controlling the population through this artificial drought and hoarding the water.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, the water you use doesn't leave the planet.
Yeah. Well,
even if you drink it, you piss out 90% of it. Like, bruh, where do you think the water goes when you put it down the drain?
Yeah.
It goes back into the system, my guys. Like, every drop of water that we use goes back into the system. They refilter it and keep using it. Right? If they're acting like there isn't water, they're lying.
Well,
They're
it's to the
They're trying to make sure that Nestle gets it.
Well, that's what's like when the CEO, tower head of demon squirrels living in a human body, tells you water is not a right.
Oh my God!
Like he can legit the squirrels managing his body managed to spit out the thing saying that water isn't a right. Like, we own water.
I mean, it's like, okay, so maybe access to filtered, bottled, processed, and delivered water might not be a human right, right? Like, but no one should be able to stop me from going out with a bucket and getting water from the river. Yeah. Like, in no...
Or on top of that, just, like, having runoff to feed your plants. Like, you can get fined. You can get in...
Oh, yeah. Collecting rainwater's trouble.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's insane. It's insane what's going on at the
the thing about it is that we get to this point because it's awesome because we ramble. But the thing is that if they want you to grow your own food, they wouldn't make Monsanto's wouldn't make seeds that don't populate fruit correctly. They wouldn't sterilize seeds. They wouldn't patent seeds. They wouldn't make it illegal to have seeds. You know, if they wanted you to do this. If they wanted you to be solely independent, you know, they wouldn't lie to you. They wouldn't tell you that, you know, that...
Listen, bro, it's not profitable for you to be growing your own vegetables and farming your own animals and generating your own electricity. Like, that's not profit. Yeah. It's not good for them for you to collect your own water. Yeah. It's like they're like...
Well, it is good for you if you're in...
Oh, it's good for you?
Yeah. Well, no. I'm saying it's good for you if you're in Georgetown and you bottle the water, filter it, and sell it back to us. Then it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but what I'm saying... you know? Yeah, what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, like, there's private interests that have hijacked the government. And so anything that goes against the private interests of corporations gets construed as illegal. Yeah. And... so again, I really think that...
I forget who I was listening to, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but it was like, if you go to the inner cities, you'll see this really strange thing where it's check cashing place, liquor store. What is it called when they filter your blood through a machine?
Plasma donation facility.
No.
Dialysis.
Dialysis location, liquor store, 7-Eleven, liquor store, dialysis place, liquor store. It's just like...
Those are the only businesses operating.
Those are the only businesses operating.
Yeah, that's a heck of an environment, and I really do believe that I in my soul believe that we're like mid collective consciousness awakening within the individuals across the planet.
I think that at any given, I think it didn't help that we collectively saw, like we've watched, like I've watched, like I'm 35 now. I've watched the invasion of several places on live television.
Yeah, and we've also lived through like one of the most ridiculous recessions ever. Like, like we've lived through some historic times.
Yeah, and to see, like, to literally like be in front of the TV. Like, I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, watching Russia invade a sovereign place. I don't know where you stand on, not you in particular. I don't know where the universal we stand on that, but I legit watched as people were hearing death sirens go off because bombs were dropping on live television.
I feel like
that is disturbing. That at any given moment I could have popped popcorn or threw a tray of pizza in there and completely sheltered.
For me, it isn't too concerning, right?
It's not concerning. It's concerning in the sense that it is television.
I have an analogy though. It's like different groups of people fighting are like white blood cells and red blood cells in the human body fighting one another, right? Like at some point, like the infighting that happens as we grow as a species is a normal process of the maintenance of homeostasis for the galactic consciousness that we all are.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like there's gonna be conflict. Like your white blood cells and your red blood cells are at constant ends with each other in their body, right? Like your body wants to kill your sperm. Your sperm is considered a foreign body in your body, and if it's not like contained where it's supposed to be, your body will fucking eat that shit and kill it like as ravenously as it can. And so like you have to understand that like a lot of these things in the universe are arranged as natural enemies on their own, because that's what spurs growth in. Like through conflict, you get this like weird soup of ideas and experiences that creates a more robust like backdrop from which elegance can arise from.
Well, so you were saying something and I thought it was really interesting, and I don't think it would be a bad idea. But if you take certain police officers that are experiencing muddy windows and tell them, listen, we're going to put you on a regimented dose. You come here at any given point, and you take microdosing of LSD, and we will microdose this anger out of you. We will make better police officers through microdosing, and you will become compassionate through understanding.
I mean, I don't know if that's appropriate. Like, I feel like it's easier to just go and find good people and install them than it is.
Well,
to turn the ship around, right? Like,
yeah.
Like I would just rather sink that ship and fucking roll a new ship out personally.
But I would also feel like if you're fired from the police department because you have anger issues and you're seeking help, then they should be like, listen.
Well, they're not firing guys from the police department.
Well, I'm just saying that if you're, saying if you're going to sink the ship is what I'm saying. If you're going to sink the ship and you're going to start afresh, then I want these men to be dosed regularly.
Not just them, everybody. Like everybody needs that shit. Like I think that the person bagging the groceries needs that. I think that the guy working on the cars needs that.
Yeah.
I think that like the guys who are doing chemistry need that. Like I think that at the end of the day, psychedelics,
a cosmic reset.
Well, if you take a high enough dose, right? But like at the end of the day, it just helps change your perspective, right? Like just most human beings don't realize how fragile their conscious perception of reality is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think the average person realizes that I can walk up with a dropper and go boop and put one drop on your fucking hand and it cause whatever makes you to fucking disintegrate.
Yeah.
Right? And you be left as a fucking vegetable for an hour, fucking experiencing ego death and come back a complete new motherfucker. Like, people don't realize that your entire conscious perspective can go from here to here with nothing but like the application of like a smear of a fucking liquid on your hand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like this whole arrangement is very, very delicate.
We were talking about policing, and I've always kind of said that it always moves back to this with me, is that when you take Elias or Josh out of Taylor and you put them in Austin, Houston, Dallas, and we don't know these people, it is easier to consider these people foreign combatants than it is if we have Elias policing Taylor, Granger, Bartlett, smaller towns.
Well, again, you have to understand that like they don't want empathy and compassion.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, like,
and so that's an easy like if you're not in your community.
Yeah.
Right. If it's not a group of people that you identify with, then you're less likely to be empathetic and compassionate towards them. And so if you take a guy from one city and have him police the next city over, that's not his community.
Yeah.
He's just there doing a job. Right. And that's where it all kind of breaks down.
And I mean, we can go way deep into like militarizing police departments and, you know, basically having them be the nannies of the state, and you can't even do a welfare check without at least, I mean, you have welfare checks of people being killed because they don't know how to deal with mental health. They don't know how to deal with bipolar schizophrenics. They don't know how to deal with someone having a nervous breakdown. Someone holding a knife to themselves and getting shot to death is counterintuitive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and again, that's just where these guys have hard jobs and they're dealing with difficult people. And again, I just think that like, at the base level, right, if we could just wake people up
mm-hmm.
to the fact that we are all one big living organism, and that people could recognize that, like, if whoever, right, if I could recognize that if I did harm to you, that's literally me harming myself, because we're backs in front of the same coin, then, like, obviously compassion, it's a much more compassionate and empathetic, just like general orientation to have, and that's what I want for people.
And that's what I'm saying is it's kind of weird, because you have this weird point in time where you're seeing, like you said, an ultra masculine, male dominated hierarchy in the police department, and then you have, and I hate to bring him up, and it's just because he's in the Matrix right now and he's being pushed into the forefront. Well, I actually want to know where you stand on this. So there's this guy, I've talked about him before, his name's Andrew Tate. He got shit canned on everything.
I mean, I have to be honest, I've never seen a single video of this gentleman.
Well, he got, like you'll never see him again. Like, you'll see him way less if you ever seen him at all. Like, now he is essentially gone off of every platform.
Yeah.
They took everything that they banned him from TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. The top 3 or 4.
Well, I mean, I don't think I necessarily like that. Like,
well, that's what I'm trying to say. Is just like,
because the guy's got, like, a weird perspective doesn't mean that he shouldn't be allowed to have it.
The thing that I don't get about doing this is that if you tell me that behind that wall is something that you cannot see, what are you going to want to do with the thing? Well, behind that door, I have something in there.
Well, I mean, it's your curiosity is going to take over. I mean, humans are a curious species.
Yeah, so you're saying, well, I understand you liked Andrew Tate. I understand that you were curious about Andrew Tate, but now you can't find him. What are you going to do?
Well, I mean, so for the people who were into him and were curious, it's going to spark it. But I mean, you have to understand that, what does he have, 50 million people who are watching him?
Yeah, I mean, like,
so there's 7 billion people on the planet. They're trying to keep him from reaching those 7 billion. Yeah. So if he has 50 million followers now, and 25 million of them become hyper followers, but he never gets anything beyond that because no one else is ever being exposed to it, then, like, ultimately they won.
Yeah.
You know, and so...
I mean, but they tried to do it with Alex Jones, and it doesn't work, and they tried to...
So Alex Jones has his own platform and has had his own platform for 2 decades.
That
so
is
he's
true.
kind of an exceptional unicorn in the space where, Alex Jones already had InfoWars. Alex Jones had fucking InfoWars stickers out on people's bumper stickers in 96.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's just, whenever you're dealing with a guy who's been doing it for 30 years, like, he's got... It's a whole different type of monster there. But
I just find it...
I've got 2 thoughts on it.
Okay.
I think that he shouldn't be getting canceled unless he's, like, literally openly calling for, like, violence and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, unless he's, like, really, like, putting people's lives in danger, then, like, whatever. And, like, even then, like, you would just hope that if he was saying something that salacious, people just wouldn't be listening on their own because it's ridiculous, right? Yeah. And so obviously, like, he's connecting with some point. Like, if people are following him, he's connecting with something in somebody, right? Like, he's got a point, right? I've never seen a video of him, but if he's got so many followers, and, like, he's got a point from a certain perspective, right? And that's what I really want is I want people to understand that there's an infinite number of ways for truth to be interpreted.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I set a 6 on the table just like this, you'd be seeing a 9. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he's just on the other end of the board.
Well, the funny thing is just like the reason why, the particular reason why is what we've come back to in a number of podcasts. It's that men who haven't had sex, or men who haven't been in any particular relationship, friend or otherwise, with women, incels, otherize women, and then they put this, like, unobtainable price tag on something that is inherently, they're just people. They are just people. They don't have a wiener.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, bro. After you've had sex a couple hundred times, like, the pizzazz kind of wears off. It's like,
well, I mean,
cool,
Doug Stanhope said it best. Like, I mean, it's just like it's fun for poor people.
Well, it's like, I want you to understand. I want to see every pair of titties. Like, every pair of titties.
All right, Ron White.
Oh, is that a Ron White show?
Yeah, that is.
So, dude, me and Ron White on the same page.
He's like, I saw an old biker lady say, "You want to see my titties?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Yes. Yes.
And he's like,
that's the energy.
And he's like, all right, roll him up. And then she's just like,
fucking God.
Pantomimes her rolling it up and licking it like a joint, you know?
But the point is that, after, like, I think that a lot of these people just have, like, an unrealistic idea of how important sex is. Mm-hmm. And they get caught in these, like, weird thought loops over a prolonged period of time. Yeah. But again, if these guys were able to go and, like, fucking participate in an LSD orgy, that shit would be gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. Like,
have you ever seen, like, there's, like, this great interview. It's this, like, guy, 95 pounds, like, soaking wet, right? And he just, like, winds up in an orgy. And they're recording him, and he's like, yeah, so, like, I went to, like, Craigslist and, like, found an orgy, and, yeah, like, they're not attractive. It's like, bro, like, okay.
Well, bro, you're a shallow person. I'm going to tell you right now that I can find beauty in anybody. Like, everybody's beautiful, bro. I've never met a single human being that didn't have some type of beautiful characteristic. Yeah. Right? The only thing that makes people not attractive are, like, a cloudy window. Right? Like, you have an idea of what attractive is supposed to look like. And so when someone doesn't meet that expectation, you're turned off by it, right? Yeah. And I want to fucking reset that, bro. We can reset that with a high enough dose of LSD.
The thing is that, okay, if Josh goes out there, right, with even a minor amount of money, like, these people go out there with $1,000, right? And they get a group of, like, 30 women, and they give them, like, $60 each to say the most heinous shit, you know?
The fuck are you talking
Just
about?
listen to what I'm saying. They say the most heinous shit, right? Like, oh, yeah, like, they talk shit about men, or they do these things, right? It's gonna cloud up that window, but they're only doing it for likes and this insane pop and rush.
Yeah, bro. The way that, like, social media has hijacked people's thought processes, I think a lot of the people who create the content that gets propagated are people who are saying things that they don't necessarily believe. They're saying things that are, like, in the zeitgeist right now that they know are going to get them the likes. Because at the end of the day, they're just, like, selfishly, like, childishly going for, like, a dopamine rush from likes and reacts, right?
Yeah.
So they'll say whatever gets them the reacts, and then all of a sudden the people reacting to it think that this is, like, a truthful, valid perspective that's being held. And actually, it's just, like, this weird thing where, like, they saw trends and thought they could get the reacts that they wanted, and that's how they acted.
Well, and that's the funny thing is, like, I was watching one of those, and the cracks emerged because just got a shit actor, just got a girl who couldn't act as well as other girls, and they were like, it was like, well, I got $500 here if you just tell me the craziest thing you did to your ex. And she's like, I sucked this guy's dick and then put sugar in his tailpipe. And it was just like, okay, like, sugar in his gas tank. But you got ahead of yourself and you said you put it in his tailpipe. Like, were you paid? Was this just a mistake? Or you just didn't know what you're talking about and you actually put sugar in his tailpipe? But the thing is like, it's fake. It's WWE. What do they call that? They're marks. They're, it's kayfabe. Yeah. It's just kayfabe is what it is.
Listen, everybody who's listening, and we're gonna wrap it up after this. Everybody who's listening, this is the final point that I want to make for everybody. The truth that you're seeking doesn't exist on social media.
No, yeah.
The truth that you're seeking doesn't exist in churches. The truth that you're seeking doesn't exist on college campuses. The only truth that can really be beheld is that which occurs to you on the inside. And everybody these days is so caught up worrying that they won't express themselves authentically because they could get exposed on the internet or on social media. And everybody...
Or just consciously disliked.
Yeah,
or just
exactly. Everybody's so terrified of judgment that everybody is going about this weird, polite little dance where they're all saying what they think the next person wants to hear.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm going to tell you right now that the ones of us who are waking up, what we want to hear is the truth that occurs to you in your heart, because that's the only real truth. And if that doesn't sound intuitively true to you, take 5 tabs of LSD in silent darkness and see if that truth doesn't penetrate. Because I'm telling you right now, The only thing that should really truly matter to you is the truth that's in your heart.
Yeah.
If you want to go be a fucking weirdo, go be a fucking weirdo, right? It's gonna suck if the truth in your heart is that you want to go fucking do some heinous criminal act, right? Because ultimately there are repercussions for your actions out there in the world. But most people just like have silly little thoughts and like aren't like, it's not these big things. Everybody's so worried about the judgment. I'm telling you right now, the thing that you're going to get judged most harshly for whenever you find yourself in the Hall of Anubis is going to have been not being truthful to yourself.
Yeah.
Like they weigh your heart against the feather of truth.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't lead your life in a way that was authentic and a representative of the truth, and like a representative series of actions that are based on the truth that you have in your heart, then you lived your life a liar.
Yeah.
You lived your life a liar. And I promise, if you live your life a liar, whenever the fucking time comes, whether it's in a car accident, whether it's high on fucking morphine on a deathbed when you're 80, doesn't matter. Anywhere between here and there, bro, the thing you're going to look back on and be disappointed in is that you didn't allow yourself to live the way you knew you wanted to. And so, do drugs, eat garbage, live your best life. Mikey, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on the first episode with me on there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's Joshua, the ones who woke up. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
All right.
Monkey mouth. Monkey mouth. Monkey mouth. Monkey mouth.